Ryan here again. I wanted to bring you a quick tutorial on some composition technique. We're going to take a look at a film I scored and take a look at how using a slow, simple, but emotional legato string arrangement can really be impactful to a scene. So let's take a quick look. I wanted to share a bit of composition with you guys, and I actually learned this technique while working with James Horner. I got to watch him when I worked for a scoring stage years ago at Tadeo before they closed it down and before he passed away. He would do these slow rising string lines, and it just gradually it would get higher and higher and higher and higher, and it would be slow moving, and it just had this really great impact. And I've incorporated that in my writing as well. So what this is this is the opening scene to a film I scored called The Big Fix. It's on here, it's titled Spill. It usually goes through several title changes. It went to Cannes. It starred Peter Fonda and Amy Smart and Michelle Rodriguez and Jason Mraz. And a really incredible film. Had a really great response. And it's very personal to the director, Josh Dekel, because it's about the oil spill in the Gulf. It affected his hometown. But I highly recommend you check this film out. Again, it's called The Big Fix. So this opening scene, Josh and I went back and forth. He had a very specific vision. He wanted this timeless, impactful sound, and yet he wanted the feel of the South, but not particularly Southern. It had to be timeless and evocative and emotional, so how we achieved that is I ended up taking a Gibson guitar, an acoustic, and I think I tuned it down into an open tuning, and I just did this drone repeated ostinato that goes on, and then I have this slow rising string section that is kind of giving you that timeless feel, whereas the guitar is kind of giving you that southern feel. And it looks like, let's see, I've got, like a solo violin, and I apologize for the naming. I originally did this in Logic 9, and now it's in Logic 10. But here's your bass, cello, violin. I'll play this back for you. Here we go. Okay, so what's going on here? That's that drone sound that you're hearing. Let's take a look at the string part. As you can see, it's just all very slow moving lines. if you see here, you've got this violin line. It goes up and then down, and then up a little bit higher, and then down, and then finally up. So that's what I'm talking about with that slow moving line. There's not a lot of movement. It's nice and slow, but it gives you that nice emotional impact. Let's just take a look at, and what you're hearing on the right side is the cello. The cello is really driving that melody home. It's a very simple, kind of heartfelt melody here. See how it's going up? And the great thing about the cello is the reason it's used so much as a solo instrument is, number one, is because the range it's got, I believe, the widest range of any of the string instrument. It can go extremely low, and it can go all the way up into, the violin and the viola range. And when it gets up there, it's just got this heart-wrenching tone to it. So John Williams does it a lot. I mean, all of the great composers have done this through time. So that's kind of why. I mean, a violin solo is good, but it didn't have that rich quality that I wanted. That's why I chose the cello to do this. So that's what that's doing. Let's just take a look at the other parts. If we're just looking at the basic, if we're looking at the bass and the first and second violins and the viola, here's what's going on here. And then when you add this single violin on top, I believe it doubles the first violins, but then it kind of splits into parts. I'll show you what it does here. If we double it up. And what I'm doing is I'm just following the basic harmonic structure. I mean, it's been a few years, but what I did here is I believe I just sat down on my keyboard here and I brought up a string patch and I played it out, or I may have done it on piano. And what you can do is you play out the part and then copy that part, to each of these sections, and then really, see how when I select all of these, there's all these multiple parts here. And that's when you play it on one patch. I would play all of those parts, copy this to each one of these, and then delete everything other than the line it would be in. I had to figure out what the violin line was out of this whole group, and what the cello line was, and what the bass line was. this would have been played with my left hand. And obviously it's different. You have to work out the voicing so it sounds realistic. But it's what's really driving the rhythm here is that guitar going da 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 da, and I've got some drums going on, and but the strings are really just slowly, adding out those chords. So that is an example of how you can use slow-moving violins and slow strings in a film score. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than that. I mean, I'm a trained composer. I went to school for it. I've worked with some of the best composers in Hollywood, and I've seen some of the greatest musicians and some of the greatest composers, and I've soaked a lot of that up, and a lot of it is, copying or imitation. A lot of it is using, music theory to do this, but it is possible to do this without music theory. I mean, Hans Zimmer, I don't believe reads music, but he's one of the most brilliant guys out there. John Williams is obviously, he does read and write music very, very well. But they both have used this technique, and that's what I did here. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll be covering, further things on composition, as well as mixing, as well as songwriting and producing, and hope you guys have a great one. All right, take care. Oh, by the way, you can check out this track on my website. I believe I have the entire, score up there, and I'll leave a link below to where else you can find it. All right, take care.